UFC 303 is this weekend. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card, give my prediction for who I think is going to win, break down the fight. Timestamps in the description if you want to skip to a specific fight, as always. But we're going to be starting with the very first fight on this card, which is Ricky Simón versus Vinicius Oliveira. I am going to take Ricky Simón in this fight. Vinicius Oliveira coming off a flying knee KO over Bernardo Sopai, I believe was his name. One of the knockout of the year candidate for sure. But he's taking a big step up here against Ricky Simón. You know, going from Bernardo Sopai, who I think came in on short notice on that fight. I could be wrong, but I think that was a short notice replacement. And then you're going up all the way up to Ricky Simón. I just think that's too big of a jump. And we've seen Vinicius Oliveira taken down before and held there. And Ricky Simón, his heavy pressure wrestling style, I think we're just going to see him take down Oliveira every round and hold him there. Kind of get a boring, lay and pray decision from Ricky Simón. Now, could Vinicius Oliveira go out there and KO Ricky Simón? Absolutely, sure. He's got ridiculous power in his shots. But I'm not going to pick off of hypotheticals. This is why, hypothetically, Ikram could knock out Whitaker. He's Chenny, and Ikram has power. I'm not going to trust in the knockout power. I think Ricky Simón is just the safer bet. He's got the more realistic path to victory. So I'm going to bet on that over betting on that Vinicius Oliveira is able to find a kill shot on Ricky Simón. I just think that's far less likely than Ricky Simón getting his takedowns and holding Oliveira against the cage or holding him on the ground. So I got Ricky Simón in this one. I'm going to go 30-27 decision for him. Next fight on the card is Ray Tsuruya. I don't know how you pronounce that. Try my best. Versus Carlos Hernandez. I am going to go with Ray Tsuruya over Carlos Hernandez. I do believe this is a replacement fight. I think Hernandez was booked against someone else and they pulled out. I could be wrong again, but I think that's correct. But yeah, I am going to go Ray Tsuruya. I think his grappling is too good. His striking is too good. I think he's a little too quick for Carlos Hernandez, and I just think he's going to overwhelm him. So yeah, I'm going to go with Ray Tsuruya to beat Carlos Hernandez. Not much to say about this one. I'm going to try to go quicker in the lower level fight so I have time to talk more in depth about the bigger fights on the card. So yeah, I'm going to go Ray Tsuruya. I'll go by decision again, 30-27. Next fight on the card, Andrei Arlovski back in the cage facing Martin Buday. The two fat people back at it. Andrei Arlovski is 45 years old. I cannot pick a 45-year-old to win a fight. I'm going to go with Martin Buday. And it's crazy because I'm not that high on Martin Buday. I don't think he's that good. But I do think Andrei Arlovski, he's 45 years old, and I know it's heavyweight, and these guys don't age like the lighter weight classes. They don't have to weight cut. They can have these longer careers. But 45 years old is pushing it, even at heavyweight, So I'm going to pick Martin Buday. I do think Andrei Arlovski is tough. I think he'll survive, but I am going to go Martin Buday to win this fight. I'm going to say he gets it done by decision again. 3 decisions in a row to start the card. But that's how I see it going. First fight on the main prelims, we have Payton Talbott taking on Yanis Ghemmouri, or however you say it. I'm going to assume it's Ghemmouri. Doesn't matter because I'm taking Payton Talbott. This is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I think the odds are like minus 1,000 in favor of Payton Talbott, like insane odds. But it's for a reason. Payton Talbott just coming off a very impressive win over one of the most hyped-up prospects in the UFC in Cameron Saaiman. And it wasn't even like he went to war. He dismantled Cameron Saaiman, brutally demolished him, dominated him in the first round, almost had a finish there, and then ended up finishing him off very early in the second round. So if he's doing that to Cameron Saaiman, I don't think Yanis Ghemmouri is going to have a chance. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to pick Payton Talbott to win this fight. I'm going to say he gets it done by KO in round 1. I mean, Yanis Ghemmouri is coming off a KO loss to William Gomez from a body kick. So if William Gomez can put you away with a body kick, Payton Talbott can put you away however he wants, in my opinion. I'm going to go Payton Talbott to get this one done by round 1 KO. Next fight, Charles Jourdain versus Gene Silva. This is an interesting one. I'm actually going to go with the underdog in Gene Silva. He is currently an underdog as I record this. I think the odds might move more in his favor. I do think he should be the favorite in this fight. Obviously, I'm picking him. But I like Gene Silva. Gene Silva's got a little more like snap in his shots. His shots seem to do more damage than Charles Jourdain, who's just kind of flicking out a jab, flicking out a kick, you know. When Gene Silva lands, it's like you can see the impact, you know. Charles Jourdain's just kind of tapping you. Gene Silva's landing huge bombs, and he's got, like, you know, impact behind his shots, and I just don't see that with Charles Jourdain. Now, Charles Jourdain, he is pretty good at controlling the distance, keeping you at range. He's got pretty nice kicks. When you look at the opponents Charles Jourdain has fought, you know, he beat Kron Gracie, who was really just a BJJ nerd laying on the ground in front of him. That was kind of a free win. And he's beating Ricardo Ramos, which, fair enough, is a pretty decent win. But then you look at his losses, he's lost to Shane Burgos, he's lost to Nathaniel Wood, and he's lost to Sean Woodson by split decision. And it's not like these are atrocious losses. Those are pretty good opponents to lose to. I think he is on that level, and we've seen Charles Jourdain struggle with opponents on that level. I think the power is going to be a big factor in this fight. Gene Silva has the power advantage. I think he's a little bit quicker, honestly. So I'm going to go Gene Silva to get this one done. I'm going to say by decision again. I don't think he'll put away Jourdain. He's pretty tough. But I'm going to go Gene Silva by decision. Next fight is Cub Swanson versus Andrei Fili. I am going to go Andrei Fili. Cub Swanson, he's 40 years old. Andrei Fili's going to be quicker. I think Cub Swanson probably hits harder, but, you know, he's just going to be a little too slow. I think Andrei Fili can mix in the grappling if he wants to, but I think the speed advantage is going to be big on the side of Andrei Fili. And I'm looking at recent fights, and, you know, when I'm looking at Andrei Fili, it's like he beats these guys that he's kind of like a gatekeeper to the rankings. You know, if you're in the top 15, you're probably going to beat Andrei Fili. But if you're not top 15 level, he will beat you. Like, he's losing to Joe Anderson Brito, who's an exciting up-and-coming prospect. Nathaniel Wood, another really good prospect. And Dan Ige, obviously ranked, gets chinned by him in round 1. But then I'm looking at Cub Swanson, right? I see a loss to Giga Chikadze. Not a bad loss. It's whatever. That's 3 years ago at this point, though. And his most recent loss is to Jonathan Martinez by leg kick. And I don't like that. I mean, we just saw what Aldo did to Jonathan Martinez, and I know it's Jose Aldo. You know, it's obviously it's a little bit different. But Jonathan Martinez is a guy who literally just only has leg kicks. His boxing is mediocre. If you can stop his leg kicks, he has nothing for you. And Cub Swanson lost to that guy by leg kick, of course. Andrei Fili offers more to worry about than a guy like Jonathan Martinez does. Jonathan Martinez, like I said, you just got to worry about the low kicks. Andrei Fili, you got to worry about the boxing. You got to worry about the speed. You got to worry about the kicks. You got to worry about the grappling. And if you're losing to Jonathan Martinez, I think Andrei Fili is going to give you trouble. So I am going to pick Andrei Fili to get this one done, again, by decision. Next fight on the card, Joe Pyfer versus Marc-Andre Barriault. You know, I was really considering Marc-Andre. Like, I just went on a whole 5-minute rant talking about why I think Marc-Andre is going to win the fight. But I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer. I'm going to hate myself if Marc-Andre wins, but I'll pick Joe Pyfer. The thing, it's a 3-round fight, and I think that heavily favors Joe Pyfer, and I think that's why I'm going to pick Joe Pyfer. If this was a 5-round fight, I would go Marc-Andre 100%. I think Joe Pyfer is going to win the first 2 rounds. I think he's going to hurt Marc-Andre bad in the first round, maybe wobble him, maybe drop him. I think Marc-Andre is going to survive. I think Joe Pyfer going into the second round, he's going to be a little more tired. You know, I think he's going to exert all of his energy trying to finish Marc-Andre in round 1. I think he's going to gas out a little bit. I think we're going to see a very close round 2, but Joe Pyfer's still hanging in there. I think he'll land less, maybe less than Marc-Andre, or they'll land around the same amount of shots, but I think Joe Pyfer's will be the, you know, the loud thudding shots that get the judges' attention. You know, I think he'll land with more impact, and I think he'll get that round. And then I think going into round 3, Pyfer's going to be even more gassed, and I think Marc-Andre's going to beat him with the basics in that round. I think he's going to beat him with the jab, beat him with the leg kicks, circle around, make him miss. I think we're going to see more labored shots from Joe Pyfer, easier to see coming from Marc-Andre, and I think he's going to win the last round just with the basics, like I said, jab, leg kicks, body shots, wear out Joe Pyfer a little bit more, and I think he's going to win round 3. So I think we're going to see Joe Pyfer win a 29-28 decision in a pretty close fight that a lot of people are underwhelmed of the performance of Joe Pyfer from. I think he's He's not going to go out there and get a highlight reel KO. I think it's going to be like, okay, we need to step back and have a look at who Joe Pyfer really is. Is he really the next great prospect of middleweight? You know, a performance like that where you start questioning how good is this guy really? But yeah, I'm going to go Joe Pyfer to get it done. Not a confident pick at all. I'll go Joe Pyfer 29-28 split decision. Next fight is Ian Machado Garry versus Michael Venom Page. This is a tough one. But I think ever since this fight was announced, I was always leaning one way, and I think I'm gonna stay that way. And I am gonna go with Ian Garry to get it done. Not confident at all, but I just think at the end of the day, here's what makes it for me. Ian Garry, he's the younger guy, and I know Michael Venom Page, he looked good in his last fight. He's only 37. It's not like he's ancient. You know, it's not like he's Andrei Arlovski or anything, and he looked good in his last fight. But I think if anyone's going to be getting better at this point in their careers, it's going to be Ian Garry. You know, he's only like 26, I think, super young. And I think Ian Garry he's only getting better. And Michael Venom Page, if anything, he's only going to be getting worse. He's only going to be declining. And it's not like I think he's going to come out there and look slow and the striking not sharp or anything like that. I think his striking will be just as good as we saw it against Kevin Holland. But I think Ian Garry is young enough to improve on areas of his game to take advantage of Michael Page. I think he can implement some grappling, implement some clinch work, maybe some trips in the clinch to get him down. I think Ian Garry, he's just a little too young. He's a little too smart to fall for the trap of playing Michael Venom Page's game, of standing in kickboxing range with him and letting Michael Venom Page do what he does best. And it's not like Ian Garry is a slouch on the feet. You know, it's not like, oh, he has to implement the takedowns to win this fight. He's very good on the feet. He's just as good as Michael Venom Page. You know, in these more recent fights, as we've gotten a step up in competition, you know, Jeff Neal, he doesn't look nearly as good as he does against the cans he was fighting. But he does have very good boxing combinations, very good kickboxing combinations. And I think that's only going to improve as he's getting older. You know, he hasn't even hit his prime yet. Still very young in the game, and I think he just has more paths to win this fight. Like I said, he can implement a camp of grappling, a camp of wrestling, you know? That could be a very real possibility. And I think his striking's going to only be better than we saw it against Jeff Neal. And I just think he's going to be a little too sharp and a little too technical for Michael Page. So I'm going to go Ian Garry to get this one done. I think he puts on a statement decision. I think he walk-off decisions Michael Page 30-27. This is the fight where he looks dominant in this fight and people really start to wake up and stop with the disrespect of Ian Garry, because it's getting a little out of hand. People are really starting to get on this man, but he is a really, really dominant fighter. He is really good striker. But unfortunately, people let things outside of the cage impact their decision making on actual fights. But I think this performance is going to wake up a lot of people and realize Ian Garry is an elite striker and he belongs in the top of this division. Feature fight on the card, we got Anthony Smith taking on Roman Dolidze on short notice. Man, what a fight this turned into. This was originally Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Then it was Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg. Then it was Carlos Ulberg, Anthony Smith. And now it's Anthony Smith, Roman Dolidze. So we've been through the ringer here on this fight. And man, this is an interesting fight for sure. But I think I am going to take Anthony Smith. I don't know what the odds are on this. I haven't looked. They aren't on Tapology. But I'm going to take Anthony Smith to get this one done over Roman Dolidze. The thing about Roman Dolidze is he's just garbage. He's just garbage. And I'm not worried about this being short notice. I don't think he's going to be tiny. I know he's coming from middleweight. It's not like he's a tiny middleweight or anything. So I don't think he's going to be ragdolled by Anthony Smith. Not that Anthony Smith would even go out there and try to ragdoll him, but I'm not worried about the size. Roman Dolidze is just garbage. He's got really slow striking. You know, he doesn't really snap his shots out there. He kind of pushes his jab. He doesn't snap it. You know what I mean? No speed, no athleticism, terrible striking. Where Roman Dolidze wins his fights is with his submissions. But the problem is, Roman Dolidze has some of the worst takedown entries you will ever see. This guy really struggles to get fights to the ground against high-level competition. And at the end of the day, if he can't get you down and this fight is forced to be a stand-up fight, I think Anthony Smith is better on the feet than Roman Dolidze is. I think Anthony Smith can pick apart Roman Dolidze. I mean, if he can pick apart Ryan Spann and beat Ryan Spann, I think he'll have no problem with Roman Dolidze. You know, I just worry about Anthony Smith being dumb and throwing himself in a guillotine, similar to what Vitor Petrino did to him. Maybe he gets dumb, throws himself in a submission, goes for a takedown when he doesn't need to, and ends up getting submitted by Roman Dolidze. But I think Anthony Smith should win this fight. I don't know what the odds are. Again, this could be an underdog pick. I don't know. But I'm going to go Anthony Smith to get this one done over Roman Dolidze. Just not high on Dolidze. I think he's fucking terrible. So I'll go Anthony Smith by decision. I'll say he gets it done 30-27, dominates Roman Dolidze. I think he's got all the keys to win this fight here. Co-main event, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. Now, this is a fun one. I'm ready for this one. This fight was just made like a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go Diego Lopes. I know this is a big jump up, but we've seen Diego Lopes compete with the top of the division. He looked really good against Movsar Evloev on short notice. The thing about Diego Lopes is he is massive. He is a huge featherweight. And not a lot of people talk about that. He is huge. He is going to mog Brian Ortega. I mean, he's shredded. Brian Ortega's got a little body fat on him, you know. Not the most ripped guy in the world, especially at this point in his career. And I think Diego Lopes is going to be so much bigger, so much heavier than Brian Ortega. And he can compete with Brian Ortega in the grappling. Diego Lopes has dangerous submissions just like Brian Ortega. And if this is a stand-up fight, all fights start on the feet. Diego Lopes, I think, just dismantles Brian Ortega on the feet. He's got the longer reach. He's got power in his hands. And we've seen Brian Ortega get hit. I mean, Yair Rodriguez 10-8'd him in round 1. And Yair Rodriguez is an incredible kickboxer, absolutely. But Diego Lopes is an incredible boxer with incredible power. So he can definitely find that chin. So I think the game plan for Brian Ortega is going to be getting the takedown. I don't think he can stand with Diego Lopes. If he does, this is not going to end well. So he's going to want to take this fight to the ground. And the issue is Diego Lopes, he is just as dangerous on the ground as he is on the feet. So I think Brian Ortega, if he shoots a takedown, he's in trouble. Even if he gets Diego Lopes on his back, he's still in trouble. Diego Lopes very active off of his back, always throwing up submissions. So Brian Ortega is just not safe anywhere this fight goes. So I think Diego Lopes is going to get this one done. I'm going to say he knocks out Brian Ortega in round 1. I mean, we saw Brian Ortega hurt bad against Yair Rodriguez, dropped, somehow survived. I think Diego Lopes, if he gets in that same situation, this fight is over. I think Diego Lopes can finish Brian Ortega in round 1. So that's going to be my pick. I'm going to say Diego Lopes gets this one done by round 1 KO over Brian Ortega. Now, this is the fight. The main event, 2 weeks notice, we got Alex Pereira taking on Jiri Prochazka for the light heavyweight title. I just made a video talking about why I'm a little worried for Alex Pereira. I think he could definitely lose his belt here to Jiri Prochazka. I talked about all the ways I think Jiri Prochazka could get it done. Nah, you know what? I am going to go Jiri Prochazka. I'm going to go Jiri Prochazka. You know, I'm back and forth on this. You know, come fight night, maybe I'm back on Alex Pereira. But I'm going to go Jiri Prochazka. I just have a gut feeling. I have a gut feeling. All the reasons I just talked about. You know, I think if this fight gets into the later rounds, Jiri Prochazka, let's say, you know, he got a takedown in round 1 of their first fight. Let's say he gets another one, holds him there for half the round, gets one in round 2, holds him there again, works the body, works that gas tank a little bit more. Then we get into rounds 3 and rounds 4. Alex Pereira, you know, he's a little more labored. Let's say the footwork isn't all there. The striking, you know, the hands are a little low, breathing a little heavy. And Jiri Prochazka is still marching forward, throwing big bombs, putting Alex against the cage, and landing with these unorthodox strikes, these spinning elbows, these flying knees, these whatever, spinning back fists. So I just have a gut feeling, man. And I'm not going to ignore my gut. I could definitely see Alex Pereira getting it done 100%. Would not surprise me at all. Like I said, I'm back and forth on this. But I'm just going to trust my gut, and I'm going to go Jiri Prochazka to get this one done. I think we're going to see an epic trilogy between these two. And I think Jiri Prochazka gets it done. I'm going to say Jiri Prochazka finds the TKO in round 4 on Alex Pereira and new light heavyweight champion of the world. That's my pick. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree, disagree with my picks? Let me know what you agree and disagree on. Who do you think is going to get it done in the main event? Let me know. And I'll be back Saturday night for the post-card breakdown.